And now a special look at Marvel Studios' original series, Loki.
Maybe Loki wants to mix it up. Is that possible? You can change? Hi.
This variant is insubordinate, stubborn, unpredictable.
He's doing great.
You need the god of mischief.
But he's really arrogant.
I am Loki, and I am burdened with glorious purpose.
Unbelievable. Wherever you go, it's just death, destruction, the literal ends of worlds.
I know.
I know what this place is.
The Timekeepers have built quite the circus. And I see the clowns are playing their parts to perfection.
Big metaphor guy. I love it. Makes you sound super smart.
I am smart.
I know.
Okay.
Okay.
Please sign to verify this is everything you've ever said.
This is absurd.
Sign this too.
We protect the proper flow of time. You picked up the Tesseract, breaking reality. I want you to help us fix it.
Why me?
I need your unique Loki perspective.
Do I get a weapon?
Nah.
You really believe in this Loki variant?
Luckily, he believes in himself enough for the both of us.
Why? It is adorable that you think you could possibly manipulate me. I'm 10 steps ahead of you.
You're not big on trust, are you?
You can trust me.
Loki, I've studied almost every moment of your entire life. You've literally stabbed people in the back like 50 times.
Why never do it again?
Welcome back, everyone. This is going to be my brand new Loki trailer video. Big surprise, they dropped a new Loki trailer in addition to all the big Marvel Phase 4 movie trailers yesterday. There's a whole bunch of new Easter eggs, so we'll break it all down. If you're brand new to the channel, of course I'll be doing all the episode videos for this, so be sure to subscribe to get all those videos. We'll also do that Disney Plus giveaway for memberships. All you have to do to enter is just be a subscriber and leave all your predictions for the Loki series in the comments. I love the way Loki rolls into this trailer though, like Owen Wilson says, everywhere you go, destruction, the death of worlds, and Loki just shrugs like, yeah, exactly. So even though all this new trailer footage is all about Tom Hiddleston's new version of Loki, it's mostly through Gugu Mbatha Raw's character, Ravonna Renslayer. She's actually a really big deal in the Marvel lore, with some huge connections to Kang the Conqueror that I'll talk about in a second, because obviously we're going to get a version of him during Ant-Man 3, Quantumania. And a lot of this being framed through Owen Wilson's character talking to her about Loki, playing the Mobius character. Obviously his character's name, a big reference to time, because of the way that they're playing on all the conventions of time travel during the series. They're taking a very Doctor Who and Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy sense of humor to the series with the way they play on a lot of these time travel tropes. So if you really like the craziness of Wandavision and you felt like Falcon and Winter Soldier was a little too regular, like a little too stock and trade, I feel like Loki is really going to crank up the dials on the craziness, and it sounds like they had a much clearer idea of what they wanted the series to be when they plotted this out, and that's one of the reasons why it's getting a season 2. If you didn't see the good news either, they've already renewed it for season 2. Tom Hiddleston will be coming back, so it'll be one of those Marvel Disney Plus series that does get multiple seasons. It's just that in between season 1 and season 2, he'll cross over to Thor 4, Love and Thunder. But the whole thing here is that you have Judge Renslayer presiding over Loki's trial after they drag him in for destroying the timeline when he stole the Tesseract, the Space Stone, from the main MCU timeline in Avengers Endgame. Then they show you the series of the ever-increasing branching timelines from the main timeline that just goes on forever into the future. I'll explain the Time Variance Authority and the Timekeepers in a second, but where they are here, this whole city that you see, which looks amazing, but the Timekeepers themselves, the statues that you see here, these big statues, are beings that exist at the end of the timeline, like the very end of time, at the end of the universe, like literally the end of everything. Their technology, their science is so advanced that they create the Time Variance Authority to sort of police the timeline and make sure to keep its integrity so that you don't have characters like Kang the Conqueror running around messing with things to their own will. That's exactly what the Loki character just did. Like, he messed with the timeline, created all these branch timelines, so now the Time Variance Authority, kind of like the Time Cops, step in to clean up these alternate timelines and close them down. And Renslayer here, just at least initially, doesn't think that this version of Loki is anything special and will just cause them more trouble than he's worth, while Mobius, Owen Wilson's character, is trying to advocate for him, like, he might surprise us, he might change, which is a clever reference to the redeemed Loki from Avengers Infinity War who sacrificed himself before Thanos killed him. The cool thing that you may not have realized in this is because they sort of exist, this pocket dimension where they are is at the end of time, they witnessed the original timeline where he redeemed himself, Thanos assembled the Infinity Gauntlet, snapped everyone, then the events of Avengers Endgame, the blip happened. They've already been able to witness everything that's ever going to happen in this timeline, which is how they know when it's changed in a bad way that they need to step in and fix. Like, how would you be able to fix something if you didn't know what it was supposed to be originally? But Owen Wilson's character, Mobius, knows that this version of Loki, had he not stolen the Tesseract, would have eventually become the redeemed version of Loki, just given a couple more years. So just to explain the stakes of the series when they pick up, like the thing that's hanging over Loki's head, they released this new plot synopsis and a log line for the series, which basically says this new Loki has to help close down all the alternate branching timelines in realities with the other versions of Loki that he inadvertently created through his actions, or he faces deletion from the timeline. Like, if he doesn't play along with them, the Time Variance Authority will make it like he never existed. They'll just go back in time to the exact point where he was about to take the Tesseract and kill him, preventing him from creating all these branching timelines in the first place. Which might seem hardcore, but it would be the simplest solution to the problem. Just go back and make it so that he never did any of this stuff. And it does sound like they've done things like that before. But Mobius is giving Loki a chance to fix things himself. Also, the twist here, the reason why they want this Loki, is because there's all these other alternate Lokis that he has to go after in the branch timelines, who are even worse than he is. And I think he's trying to rehabilitate him into one of their star time cops, so to speak. Like I said, they've already confirmed Loki Season 2, and I think the idea is that through multiple seasons of the show, as Loki crosses over between the future Marvel movies, eventually he will redeem himself like the original Loki redeemed himself in Avengers Infinity War and become a truly good character, with a lot of mischief and classic Loki jokes along the way. But while they're having that conversation, they intercut it with the separate scenes of Loki trying to pull a fast one on Renslayer, the other Time Variance Authority troops, trying to escape their facility, and failing miserably at it. That's the whole joke of the series. Because all these people are from the end of time, they're so advanced, they have so much technology that there's no way that he's able to pull a fast one on them. But I have a feeling they're going to have a lot of fun with that during episode 1, where you initially see him here right after they capture him, and he just spends a lot of that first episode in the early moments trying to escape and failing miserably at it. It looks amazing. If you've ever read any of the Kang War storyline or any classic Kang the Conqueror stories that feature him in his original time period during the far future, it looks a lot like this. I'll talk more about Kang the Conqueror and his connection to the Timekeepers in a second, but then you see other footage of Loki using his magic to dry himself off. It's not just illusions that he creates like that, like when he changes his form, he uses magic just like Scarlet Witch or Doctor Strange would use magic. But then you see a much longer version of what seems like the Pompeii scene with him just grandstanding while all the people are panicking, running around, going crazy, while the volcano seems like it's erupting in the background. Then it sort of turns into this funny twist on the Iron Man Jericho scene from way back in Marvel Phase 1. Much to Owen Wilson's chagrin, like he can't believe what's going on here. This might just be from early on when he's giving Loki the tutorial and what it is that they do at the Time Variance Authority, just taking him around to different places in time, explaining how they try to maintain the integrity of the timeline by gardening and plucking out bad actors, eliminating bad branch timelines. I think the idea is that in the Loki series, because he used an Infinity Stone, it created way more branch timelines, like in a way worse way than you would normally see with someone messing with a timeline. Like when he's in this processing queue here, you see another person. Anybody who's being processed by them is somebody who has tried to mess with the timeline. I love the idea too that in this waiting room you see a Skrull standing nearby. You just have to imagine this is the Marvel Universe, so you'd have many different characters from other series crossing over into this, many different types of aliens. Then I love this other scene with a reference to the first Avengers movie, in that scene where he's just used the Tesseract to escape the Avengers Tower in Avengers Endgame, and he winds up landing in what seems like the Gobi Desert on the opposite side of the planet. He wakes up to the faces of those people who are just confused about what's going on, and gives them the exact same speech that he gave at the beginning of the first Avengers movie when he stepped through the portal. I am Loki, and I am burdened with glorious purpose. The funny thing about that, you have to remember when this is happening in the timeline, he just did that because this is right after the end of the first Avengers movie, so he basically said the exact same thing just a little while ago. Also, the Owen Wilson joke about everywhere he goes there's death, destruction of worlds is a clever reference to the destruction of Asgard during Thor Ragnarok, which technically has not happened yet in this Loki's timeline. Remember, Owen Wilson has seen the entirety of the original MCU timeline, so he saw the events of Thor Ragnarok, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame. But just to talk about Kang the Conqueror connections and Easter eggs, the big connection to Kang the Conqueror during the Loki series, or at least one of the big connections, is that Gugu Mbatha-Ra's character, Ravonna Renslayer, is actually Kang's longtime love interest in the comics. They didn't start out that way, he pursued her and she didn't want to have anything to do with him, but eventually he won her over. We know that they cast Jonathan Majors as their Kang the Conqueror of the MCU for Ant-Man 3 in the Wasp: Quantumania. They finally gave us a date for that. It's coming out February 2023, so they'll be filming that movie pretty soon. I'm not expecting to see a ton of Kang the Conqueror cameo scenes during the Loki series. Like if we're talking about Wandavision and our experience during Falcon and Winter Soldier, sort of tune your expectations accordingly. I do think we're going to get a lot of Easter eggs and references that'll help set up Kang and explain where he comes from, world build, so that when we actually get to Ant-Man 3 and you see him, it all makes sense. And I love the idea that Kang himself was originally part of the Time Variance Authority, like maybe he's a former timekeeper himself or one of the former judges like Renslayer. But Kang's deeper connection to the Timekeepers, these giant statues that you see, those are representations of the Timekeepers themselves, these beings that exist at the end of all time and space. Kang was born in the far distant future, many thousands of years in the future, after they'd learned to manipulate time, and he sort of becomes this warrior across many different timelines and multiple realities. Eventually, he becomes very embittered when he loses his son in many different timelines and his love interest Ravonna Renslayer. Many different alternate versions of her wind up dying. Eventually, the Timekeepers recognize what an asset he could be for them, and they try to recruit him to be a force for good. In exchange for that, they offer him immortality, so he winds up accepting their offer, and through that becomes the Immortus character, who sort of exists in this other alternate limbo dimension. So maybe we'll see a version of that play out in the MCU eventually. Like you have Kang the Conqueror, the regular version of him, who's just hopping around to different timelines, being a villain. Then throughout his story, Loki style, you see many alternate versions of him popping up in the timeline. I know a lot of you are also asking which other characters from the Thor movies are going to cross over into the Loki series, and what's going on with Loki, or this version of Loki, crossing over into Thor 4: Love and Thunder. We do know that Loki references Thor and Heimdall during the trailer, during that DB Cooper scene. Like he says, "Brother Heimdall, I hope you're ready," as the Bifrost catches him after he jumps out of the plane. We see many versions of Loki and alternate versions of Asgard, so I do think that it's a safe bet that we will see at least a couple of the bigger Thor characters from the movies showing up on the series and cameos. All the Marvel Disney Plus series are meant to set up movies, so it sounds like the Loki series will also help set up some of the events of Thor 4: Love and Thunder. Then the events of Loki Season 2, whatever that plot's going to be, will take place after the movie. But if there are any other big Easter eggs that I haven't already covered in my videos that you saw in the trailer here, just write them below in the comments, and let me know what other bonus videos you want me to do for the Loki series before we get episode 1. There will be a bunch more trailers between now and then too. I'm still working on a couple of the trailer videos from yesterday. My next one will be for that new Shang-Chi trailer footage, so that should post either later today or tomorrow. Everyone click here for that real big Marvel Phase 4 trailer and that brand new Eternals trailer, and click here for my other Shang-Chi trailer video. Thank you so much for watching, everyone stay safe, and I'll see you guys tonight.